Alright guys, it's been a long summer, been a good summer, and with good summer comes good times, with good times comes some good damage. I have got some projects I got to get done here so I can get back to the other stuff I started the channel with, you know, the rat rod, and of course my 72 I have now. Haven't touched them all summer, haven't done anything, haven't had any videos out, so it's time to get after that. That being said, I need to get on these projects I got here, so take a little peek. That's just two of them. I got another one locked away in a barn. Anyway, we're going to start with the big one here. We'll get started on it. I'll show you what it is. Alright, so this one here, kid's four-wheeler, little 125 Chinese Kung Pao chicken, whatever you call it. It is running really funny. We've changed carburetors and all that. We'll get to it later. May even need a head. But this one here, see these aggressive tires, everything. Pretty awesome old four-wheeler. It's a Honda Rancher, I think. Rancher, is it? Yeah, Rancher. This thing here was being driven, and suddenly this whole rear end just went whoosh, and did some snappage. And that happened, I don't know how well you can see it because it's pulled back together, but it broke on the welds right here, and that whole rear end just twisted backwards. So what we're going to have to do is take it in, raise up the ass end of it, and then we're going to pull the wheels off. And I probably got to pull this rear end apart because this got broken too. Pull the rear end apart, see what kind of damage we might have, and then see what kind of actual bolts we need to go back in here. But to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and just clean this up and put a couple of spot welds on it to hold it together so it doesn't break apart again. And then we'll check the rear end. Then we're going to really weld this up nice and probably build some nice gussets for it. Alrighty, I got her in the garage now so I can actually get some work done on it. So you see, this is a pretty nice little four-wheeler. It's a good size one. Just took some damage, so I want to hopefully, I mean, I know I can repair what's broken. I just don't know about what's broken in that rear end. It may not be anything, I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and get it jacked up, get it on some stands, pull the wheels and stuff off, and start looking at it. Back wheels off. As you can see, we got some bolts missing, so we're gonna have to order several of those. Right here is where we think it came apart on them, and now these are just put in here to squeeze this rear end together, because what happened is we're thinking these worked their way out over time, nobody knew it, and it finally came apart when he was riding it, and that caused this to separate, and this whole rear axle went backwards, which caused the factory weld right here to snap, and that whole thing, that's a big gap if it's taken apart. So what I'm gonna do is get in there real quick and clean that up and put a couple of good just spot welds on it, and then we're gonna tear this rear end apart and see maybe if anything inside this drive tube is torn or anything on the rear end is broken. I would like to think that we were lucky enough that it just came apart and we can just put it back together, but I don't know. If I were riding, this whole thing would be ripped off. So maybe we'll be lucky since I wasn't the one riding it, and it won't be as much work. Okay, so got some welds good enough just to hold it in there, so I can go ahead and take this rear end apart and see if there's any damage in there. let's bring you into what we got going on here. Got it torn apart finally. It is nasty and no oil in it, but that doesn't really concern me. Gears all look good. I mean, they're worn, but they look good. So all I really lack is checking right up in here, see where this pinion gear and everything connects, to make sure we don't have anything torn up. And if not, I'm gonna have to tell them to order some of these bolts here that fit it, and I'll clean all this up and we'll get some new gear oil for it, put it all back together. But while it's apart, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and weld this up proper and maybe build some gussets or something for it, and then this thing should be ready to go out and start tearing up the riverside again. All right, well, we got everything torn apart, and so I think by looking, we're okay. This is your drive shaft, comes out of the tube right there. Everything's good on that, just needs to be cleaned up and greased. Everything's good here. This is where you connect to your rear end. This little spring looks all right. That goes yonder. And then looking at the pinion gears and everything, it all looks good. So I don't think he tore anything up. I think he got lucky, and that whole rear end just kind of went backwards and fell out of socket pretty much, I guess. Just kind of came apart, and then that broke. So since I've got it all apart like this, I'm going to clean it up really, really good. Go ahead and weld this up, and I'm going to find some pieces of steel right fast to make us some gussets to go ahead and make it stouter for him. That way when it's together, and he won't have to worry about it anymore. And then we'll clean up all this axle and all that good junk to get some new grease on it, and it'll be all ready to go. While we got it apart, might as well make it look good. It's been so long since I worked on anything, I can't find half my stuff. So what I'm going to end up doing is, like I showed you, go ahead and use this old Model A leaf spring that's already been cut up. I'm going to go 1.5 inches, I think. Let's see, these are 1.25 inches, right? Yeah, these are 1.5 inches. Okay, so 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to cut it 1.5 inches this way, and just cut it straight across. And I've got to cut it with my grinding wheel because I don't have the adapter to go on there to put my cutting wheels on, so I'm just going to use it and cut through. It's going to take me longer than it should, but what's new? And just cut that and then put it over there, clean up where I just welded, weld the new gusset on. Then we're going to start cleaning up the gears and rear end and everything and putting that sucker back together. good till right at the end, and I did actually run completely out of argon, so I'm gonna have to get that filled, but I'm done. So I went over top of it with no argon on it, so it looks pretty crappy, but underneath that's some good welds, so it's braced up and looking good. So what I'm gonna do now is just go ahead and get everything on the rear end cleaned up and put it all back together, and it'll be ready to go run. So overall, pretty good day. I'm going to show you what I got left and call that good for this episode, because we're going to have to order some parts and a few other things, but we got it all back together, so that's a good thing. And we realized that the inside is not broken like we expected, so that's good too. Let me run you over it real quick and show you what we're looking at. Rear end's welded back together. I will, when I get argon, clean that and make one more good pass on it. So underneath that nasty flux is a good bead. So the frame's welded together with a good bead, and then the truss, the gusset is in there. It's got a good bead, and then all this crap started spattering and popping, so I will redo it. All I gotta do is grind it and put another bead over it. Everything's back together. I gotta order this piece here. We're gonna have to find some bolts. I'm hoping here in town I can get some, just like I did on these others, but if not, I'll order some. And then we've gotta get this lined up where I can put those new bolts in it, because that's what broke it in the first place. So it's just kind of out of kilter, so we're gonna have to tweak it a little bit to get the bolts started, and then we'll be good to go. And then from there on, it'll be just going and test running it. So I'll go give it a test run when I get it done, and we'll just go run the piss out of it, because I don't want to give it back to him if it's just going to break again. So we'll get it all back together and take it out and run some new fuel through it, and we'll just go feed it some coal and see how well it'll run for a while. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to tune in next time. We're going to do some more work on this. We got a lot of projects coming. Be sure to check out some of the other channels: Robert's Garage, Left 4 Dead Garage, Stuff with Cletus, Iron Horse Garage, Challenge the Build. Check out a lot of these YouTube channels, and they got some good builds going on. Support some of these smaller guys like me. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Like, share, subscribe. Find us on Instagram, Facebook. Appreciate it. Later.